people to vote on the minutes, but we might wait till the end. Okay. I'm just gonna use this as backup.
Perfect. So we will go ahead and get started, and we'll just do some quick introductions. I'll have you start, and then we'll kind of loop around a little lasso. So you'll just do kind of name, your school, or where you graduated from, and then either your name, and then your school or your role on the board.
Gotcha. Okay, hi, I'm Liz Ramsey. I graduated from University in Oregon, and now I'm out here getting a master's degree at Colorado State University, so I'm still in school. And I am a management fellow in the city manager's office, and I am kind of taking over the deputy city manager's role with this board as one of the staff liaisons. So I help coordinate and organize stuff. So that's my role.
Hi y'all, most of you know me. My name's Dylan. I am at the University of Denver, and I am our Youth Advisory Board coordinator. I've worked on youth advisory boards for a number of years, and now I actually run a nonprofit dedicated to helping young people get involved in government, so super excited to be here. Yeah.
You look different.
I do look different. I got a haircut. And older.
And you got a beard.
Did.
I don't remember you having a beard. Last time. I don't.
Awesome.
My name is John Voboril, and I'm a senior planner with the Community Development Department. And I've been working for the city since 2001. That's a long time. And I'll be doing the major presentation tonight. And my last school was the University of Nebraska, where I got a master's degree in community and regional planning.
Hi guys, I'm Tina Prang, and I am newly elected to City Council and the new liaison from City Council to this group. So I'm really excited. I'm still learning, a lot for me to learn, and I'm excited to have youth voices that are willing to show up and share their thoughts as far as the city and things going on in the city and any improvements that you might have in mind.
Awesome. Welcome y'all. Go ahead and find a seat. We're just doing introductions. If you want to just say your name, your school.
You just walked in and now you get to introduce yourself. You're welcome.
I'm Indigo.
Okay.
To you.
I'm Isaac Schaub, and I go to Englewood Leadership Academy. Dutch, and I go to Oaks, and I go to ELA, Englewood Leadership Academy.
Awesome. Sweet. And then for those of you who just walked in, we'll have you three kind of introduce yourselves since you're new faces in the room. So
I'll go again. I'm Tina Prang. I'm newly elected to City Council, and I'm the newly assigned liaison from City Council to the Youth Advisory Board. So excited to meet all of you and hear your voices.
I'm John Voboril, senior planner with the Community Development Department. Been with the city for 23 years. My last school is the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and I'll be giving the major presentation on walk and wheel tonight.
And I'm Liz Ramsey. I'm the management fellow in the city manager's office, and I'm currently a student at CSU getting my master's degree. And I help with arranging and coordinating.
and then Sarah and I are old faces. So one of the things that we're going to go ahead and do now is approve our minutes from the last two meetings. This is something based on the number of people we have that we're now able to do, but we just got to approve the minutes and make sure that the notes that Sarah and I took look correct with what you all remember happening. So Sarah just came around and passed those all around, but I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes, and then you'll just raise your hand. I'll say all those in approval of passing the minutes. You can raise your hand. And we'll do that for both of them. So the first one are the minutes from October 25th, 2024. So all those in favor of approving the minutes from the Youth Advisory Board meeting held on October 25th, 2024, please raise your hand.
You can take time to read
Yeah,
them.
you can read them too, sorry.
Just make sure it looks pretty much what you remember.
All the way back in October.
That was a very long time ago.
Wait, you said October 25th.
Oh, sorry, October 25th.
Happened yet.
It's Wednesday, 28th, 2024, February 28th, 2024.
Keeping you honest.
Oh,
Ellen.
Not
2023.
October
Sorry,
25,
in front of me.
2023.
Yeah,
Not the date.
hit class all day, y'all.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I have to go for 7 hours.
Alright, then are there any objections to the minutes from October 25th, 2023? All those in favor of approving the minutes, please raise your hand. So they look good.
Were they all here for that meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome, those will pass. And then go ahead and look at the minutes from January 24th, 2024. So we'll be approving those next. Alrighty. All those in favor of approving the minutes from January 24th, 2024's Youth Advisory Board meeting? Perfect. Alrighty, wonderful. All of our minutes have passed 5-0. With that, I will turn things over to John. He's got a bit of a presentation prepared for us. One of the things we've heard from you all a lot is about getting around the city, biking, walking, things like that. So we figured that we would have him come in and talk a little bit about what the city is doing to make sure you're safe while you're out walking around.
All right, thank you for having me this evening. Once again, I'm John Voboril. I'm the Senior Planner with the Community Development Department. And we're here to talk about the walking wheel aspects of planning in the city. I'm going to give you a pretty comprehensive history to start out with, and then kind of go through some of the different projects we've completed and some of the different projects are now in design and hopefully will be constructed in a year or two. So I started with the city back in 2001. I was always an avid bicyclist growing up. I rode my bike to school, to the university, and then I started riding it when I came here for my first job. So I've always been an active bicyclist and very interested in bicycle mobility. And as I was poking around our community development library, as I first started here, I came across here on the left this map here that was part of a plan from 1981, which was the city's first bicycle plan all the way back then. And as you can see, it was a fairly simple system that was kind of focused on two east-west Main Street, Dartmouth, and a north-south connection, Sherman Street, connecting to our various neighboring cities, to the Denver, to the north, and to the east and the west, Cherry Hills Village to the east, and Littleton to the south. And as you can see up here, this dashed line is the South Platte River Trail. And at that time, that trail ended here at Dartmouth Avenue. That was the city and county of Denver's trail. And because the city of Denver stopped there, that's where the trail stopped. And so the next iteration of bicycle planning was, okay, so Denver had created this trail down to Dartmouth. And so then the South Suburban Recreation District wanted to extend that all the way through down to C470. So they started working on that in the 80s. And then neighboring cities such as Littleton or Englewood were very excited to try to connect their residents to that new trail. And so the focus in the 80s was to develop these two different trails through Englewood, the Little Dry Creek Trail and the Big Dry Creek Trail. And so then the planning world for bicycling kind of came to a stop for a long time. They were kind of busy with trying to take an aging mall that was here at this location called Cinderella City Mall. And that was the city's main focus, was what we're going to do with this dying mall and how can we reinvent it and redevelop it. And so bicycle planning kind of took a back seat for quite a while. In fact, it sat dormant for a long time. And so I was very interested in rejuvenating that planning effort. So I asked my boss if that would be okay. Could I go ahead and start working with other departments to come up with a new kind of bicycle plan? And they gave me the blessing. So I started working with Public Works, someone in Public Works, to develop our own plan in-house. And what we did was we mapped a lot of different community type of locations, such as parks and schools, recreation centers, the library, et cetera, to create a more robust network through the city of bicycle routes, which would be on this map in purple. Those were the additional routes in addition to the orange routes that were the original routes from 1981. So then, of course, the city didn't really have necessarily had a lot of money floating around for anything, but so we kept our eyes out looking for any possible grant opportunities, and one came along in 2011-12. We were able to get some federal stimulus monies that came from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, as well as Tri-County Health Department. And these monies were intended to foster healthy, active living, trying to get people to move more through walking and bicycling. And this is really basically trying to combat the growing levels of obesity that have been happening in our country over the last 30 years or so. And so we got about $150,000, which we were able to help hire a consultant to help us put together a signage plan for all those routes. And we had about $75,000 that could actually pay for the signs. And so we were able to add about 15.7 miles to our original 11 miles of signed bicycle routes to the city. And on the right here is the products that we have throughout the city. We have bicycle signage for all our routes. And then we had a little bit of leftover money, so we were able to purchase a number of different, what these are known as Cindy Lou bicycle racks, and they're up and down Broadway. So we were able to put a few of those out on Broadway as well with the extra money. So then we had basically implemented our very simplistic bicycle plan. So we really, what you need to do when you've implemented your plan is you need to develop a new plan that is even more exciting and better for for the users. And so we found some more money a few years later through Kaiser Permanente. Once again, they were looking to spend money in different communities to help promote walking and bicycling through communities in order to combat obesity. And so this is free money. There was no match. We got $100,000, and we were able to hire another professional consultant to help us. And this time we were able to make a more robust plan, and they were able to conduct a state-of-the-art analysis of our routes. They were also to do some documentation of our economic, environmental, and health benefits of walking and wheeling. And also, more importantly, there was this more robust public participation effort, which we didn't have in the original plan. And this helped us get the community interested and excited about these projects and help build political support. So the original Walk and Wheel Master Plan was developed in 2015, and the crux of that plan was they were looking at trying to identify projects that could be quickly implemented, either that or that they were streets that were posed some safety risks, such as busy streets, such as Dartmouth or Oxford Avenue. And so this was our first list of projects that were prioritized: Clarkson Street, Dartmouth Avenue, Oxford Avenue, Floyd Avenue, Sherman Street, Irving Union, and Old Hampton Avenue. And we were able to, so far we were able to get 3.5 of those projects implemented: Clarkson, Dartmouth, and Oxford, and half of Floyd. And we are still working on some of these other ones here. We have some of them are about ready to go into the design process. So I want to just give you a little bit of a timeout here before we continue on with all the projects, to give you a sense of how much these things cost. So Sharrow markings that you see here at the upper left-hand corner is the cheapest after signage that you can do. Each of these little Sharrow markings that you see in the streets, those cost about $350 per marking. And so for a mile of those, it costs about $20,000 per mile. The next picture here to the just below is a solid striped bike lane, and that's a little bit more pricey, coming in at $50,000 per mile. Then you go up to a 10-foot concrete path, and that comes in at $300,000 to $500,000 per mile. And then these two pictures here on the right are more contemporary types of improvements that cities such as Denver have been implementing in just the last, I'd say, 5 or so years. And these are protected bicycle lanes, which give you a little bit more of a separation from the cars, and they add these things like poles or other types of concrete barriers to separate you from the car traffic. And that comes in at about $150,000 to $500,000 per mile. And then the top of the line thing that you can do for bicycles is the raised cycle track. And that comes in very much more pricey at $1.5 million or more per mile. So when you have a lot of kind of a limited budget, these are the things that you have to kind of sort through as to, number one, what can I afford, and what kind of street am I looking at? If I'm looking at Clarkson Street, which is a pretty wide street with no parking on the east side, I can probably do Sharrow markings and be fine for most people. But on something like Dartmouth or Oxford, which are very busy, that's just not going to do, and you're going to have to really step up to the solid striping. And then, as we'll see later, on Old Hampton Avenue, we opted for the off-street concrete path because of how narrow the street was. So let's just look at some of the projects that we have worked on and we will be working on in the future. So Clarkson Street was our first project, and that street was due to be repaved, And we got a meeting with the Cherry Hills Village because it's a shared street between our cities. And we came to an agreement of how we were going to repave the street. And that was the optimum time to put down these street sharrow markings. We also put it through some other guiding signage as well in certain locations like the Little Dry Creek Trail and through the Craig Hospital area. Then our next project that we worked on was Dartmouth Avenue, which is a major east-west collector street, 3.63 miles, connection to the light rail station, as well as the South Platte River Trail. And this is a very busy street, so we knew that sharrow markings would not be acceptable here. But it's also fairly narrow, and there's also some parking requirements that we have on that street. There are houses that front Dartmouth that don't have a lot of off-street or absolutely no parking on their property. And so we felt we couldn't really necessarily get rid of parking as we would like to, but so we had to come up with a kind of a shared kind of configuration where there's a bicycle lane, but there's also, people can also park there if they need to. Our third project that we focused on was Oxford Avenue. And this was a much easier project because Oxford Avenue is very wide. It's 100 feet wide, which is just as wide as Broadway. And I'll give you a little bit of a reason why that is so wide that will be interesting. I thought hopefully will be interesting to you, is that historically there was a streetcar line on Oxford Avenue that connected Fort Logan to downtown Englewood. So there's these tracks that ran in the middle of Oxford Avenue with streetcars, and that's why that street is so wide today. And so this is really easy to do what we would want to do here. We could we could handle the parking lane easily, then have a total 6-foot lane for bicycles, as well as 2 lanes for the cars and a turn lane in the middle. So that was a really easy one. And then we went to Floyd Avenue, which we've implemented our West Floyd plan, but we still have to do our East Floyd plan. So West Floyd, basically, originally the bicycles were supposed to travel on the other side of that sound barrier wall there. But however, we had some consultants look at this and determined that we could not only bring the bicycle lane over to the other side of the wall, but we could also go farther up the street between Eladi and Broadway. We could also go down from 2 through lanes to 1 and create a much larger separation for the bicycle lanes. And then we had some things that kind of came up along the way that weren't originally part of our quick wins projects. So we had some neighboring projects with some neighboring cities that came up that they wanted to work on. And so we thought, well, we better, it's best for us to probably pivot and cooperate with these cities so that we can get these projects in quickly and cost effectively. And so one of these projects was the South Zuni Street buffered bike lanes. And Zuni Street is a shared street between Denver and Englewood up in northwest Englewood. And so this is ready for Denver to repave. So we worked with Denver to come up with this bicycle lanes that alternates the parking on either side of the street, so depending on where that parking is needed based on the houses that front Zuni Street. And then another project that similar to that was this Windermere Navajo bicycle lane project. And so the city of Littleton was, we found out they were going to put bicycle lanes on Windermere Street and connect up to our city at Bellevue Avenue. And so it was determined that we should find a little bit of money so we could continue those improvements up north to Tufts Avenue. So we put in a similar bicycle striping project similar to Littleton's that connects up to Tufts Avenue. And we also in addition to bicycle on-street routes, we also looked at projects that were conducive to walking and safety in town. One of those was the mid-block crossing in downtown Broadway. And we had a lot of interest from the business communities there on Broadway that were concerned about shoppers and restaurant patrons getting back and forth across Broadway from the various parking lots. And so there's a lot of support for this project. So we went to Longmont and saw similar projects in Longmont, and we got our public works to get on board. And so we built this first mid-block crossing there on the 3400 block of Broadway. And I want to tell you that there are some, so what happens is you press the button when you want to walk across the street, and then the bright lights start to flash, and then the vehicles are supposed to come and stop for you and let you walk across there. And that typically works well with our local populations. I think our local populations know about this project, and they know that it's there, and they know to be careful and to be watching for people crossing there. But there are also people driving that are not from here, that maybe live in Highlands Ranch or somewhere in Denver, and when they're coming through here, they're not aware of this little crossing there, and so they get a little bit surprised. And sometimes we've had some close calls with that. So we have another project in the works to upgrade this intersection to replace those kind of flashing lights with a solid kind of a signal that comes in as a red signal that requires them to stop so that you can cross. And so we're hoping that will be a little bit more safe, and we'll have less close calls. And then also we have, this is another project that we did, working on a Safe Routes to School grant that we got from the state. We knew that this is about 2017-18, that the middle school was going to move to the high school campus. And so I thought, oh, that'd be great. We could get a grant to improve the nearest crossing for Broadway to the new campus so that kids living on the west side could more easily cross safely Broadway and go to the new combined campus on Logan. And so this project here at Broadway Mansfield, what it does is it created these bulbed out intersections, which is a much nicer kind of a crossing that shortens the length of the crossing across Broadway, and it kind of helps you to get out closer to the intersection so that cars can see you. And so that was a project, another walking oriented project that we were able to complete. And then in about 2019 or 20, I believe it was, City Council, because of a lot of the support that was coming from the community for these projects, more and more people were excited to see more of these types of projects in the community. The City Council got behind putting in a regular yearly line item in the budget for walk and wheel projects. And the city manager basically came to me and said, well, if we're gonna have this yearly line item in our budget, we need to have a better idea of what these projects are going to cost. And so we went ahead and we did an update to the walk and wheel plan, which focused a lot on the consultant coming up with actual cost estimates for these different routes. And we also looked at our projects once more, and we did some new analysis, and we scored and then reprioritized some of our projects. And so now our top priority list includes Sherman Street, Laddie and Fox Streets on the west side of Broadway, West Dartmouth Avenue, East Floyd Avenue, Bates Avenue, and Old Hampton Avenue. And so we are starting to work on that list now. And so We right now the Public Works Department is working on West Dartmouth Avenue. They're replacing bridges over the Platte River, and once that's ready to go, they'll be ready to put down some bicycle lane markings on West Dartmouth Avenue. For Old Hampton Avenue at the hospital districts, this street is very narrow. And so after a lot of planning and design work on that, we have opted for the alternative to do, instead of an on-street facility, we're going to be doing a multi-use path, a 10-foot concrete path on the north side of Old Hampton Avenue. And I believe there's going to be a final design RFP that is on the streets that will be awarded shortly this year to finish that up and then go into construction hopefully next year. And then back to Floyd Avenue. This is the east side. We'll be trying to work on this later on. We did have some initial plans drawn up for this street. One of the complications of the street is there's 3 different widths of the street. The first photo over here is near Broadway, near St. Louis School. The second photo is approximately between Clarkson and Downing. And the third photo is over by Romans Park farther east. And so they all have different street widths. So near Sherman Street, near the St. Louis School, we can put in bike lanes with some buffered areas between the cars. But as we go farther down the corridor, we're going to have to remove the buffers and just have the bicycle lanes. And then finally, with the Romans Park area, parking is still deemed to be important over there. So what we came up with, our consultant came up with advisory bicycle lanes, which kind of allows the cars to, as they need to pass one another, they are allowed to creep into the bicycle lane a little bit. And our Public Works Department wasn't really that comfortable with that concept. So that's probably why this segment of Floyd has not been implemented. And we may have to revisit the the segment over there near Romans Park and maybe rethink about how maybe taking away parking again. And this is the Sherman and Elodie Fox projects are going to take on the characteristics of neighborhood bike boulevards. This concept is being pioneered in Denver. Basically, the designs are to try to create infrastructure that helps to slow down cars as well as divert cars off of those routes so that it feels safer to bicyclists. And a couple of different examples of this. This is on West 35th Avenue in Denver. Here they have a fairly inexpensive roundabout that they developed here in the middle of the intersection. And then on the right is a concrete diverters that force cars to turn left and right, but allows bicyclists to easily go through these cut-throughs through the median. And we're hoping that we can design those in 2025. And then a couple of different trail projects that we're working on to finish up here. We've got Oxford Station pedestrian bicycle bridge, and that's going to help people who are trying to cross the wide Oxford Avenue Street to try to go up this ramp, and there'll be a bridge across where the railroad bridge is, just to the east of that, and that'll help people to easily go up there, cross over to get to the light rail station without having to cross that busy street. And related to that project is the entire length of the rail trail. The rail trail project is a concrete off-street path, basically, that connects here on the left from Big Dry Creek Trail to Oxford's light rail station, then to Englewood light rail station farther up by Hampton Avenue, and then over connecting with the Little Dry Creek Trail and finally ending at Bates Avenue. That'll be a continuous 10-foot concrete trail all the way through with 3 pedestrian bridges at Oxford Avenue, Hampton Avenue, and Dartmouth Avenue. And so that tomorrow I get to, Public Works and I will be meeting with the 2 finalists for that project to do the final design for that project as well. And so that's where we're at with our projects. And that concludes my presentation. I thank you very much, and I'd be happy to take any questions that you might have about any of these projects.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for John about any of these projects, about any areas that you don't feel safe biking to school? Yeah.
Me and my parents would just love to let me bike to school on my own, but can't because very busy streets. Very busy.
That Logan?
Very busy. Yeah, I just love to bike on Logan. Is there like anything we can do about that with this Walk and Wheels master plan? Like make Logan a bit safer?
So Logan Street, we would probably, is not identified as a bicycle route. And because of those reasons, some of the reasons that you mentioned, that it's very busy, and we think there's probably some better streets to choose, such as, you can choose Washington Street or Pennsylvania, or maybe Grant or Sherman. So we would probably want to encourage you to use those streets as a student. But one of these streets that over there that we will be looking at improvements to that could really be helpful to someone living on the east side is Sherman Street. And that's where we're looking to do the bicycle boulevard concept, which will hopefully we'll want to be able to put improvements that really slow down cars, as well as divert them off of Sherman, so that there'll be just a lot less car traffic on there. It'll feel a lot safer to bicyclists. So, and we also will be looking at more safe routes to school projects as well. We do have kind of some original preliminary plans to try to connect all of our neighborhoods and identify the best walk and wheel routes to each of the school from each of our neighborhoods, and then work on trying to get grants for those projects as time goes on.
What depends on like what roads you do? Is it just like what our bike trails or?
So we have a lot of different routes. So we have to prioritize that because we don't have all of the money to do them all at once, nor the time as well. And so typically we try to work on the most dangerous streets first, which are the busier streets, such as Oxford and Dartmouth. And then also just when things come up, projects come up where someone is repaving the street, that's a really good time to put in the new striping as well. And now we're really looking at, we've really done a lot of east-west connections, and we're really trying to focus on north-south connections now. And so that's why Sherman Street and Fox and Elati have been prioritized here in the next year or two. So there's a lot of different factors that go into that, and we have to kind of balance those out. It's kind of complicated how we pick them, and sometimes they pick themselves based on, because some other city is wanting to do this, so then we pivot towards doing that.
Also, like Downing is a really like busy street because like cars don't really like pay attention to the other cars, so a lot of accidents happen.
Yeah, they run red lights.
Yeah. So I'm thinking that probably the best thing that what we need to do is to look at for something like Downing is more along the lines of these kinds of press the button kind of signals. So if you're familiar with down here outside of the Civic Center building near Nixon's Coffee, we have this push button signals that when you want to cross the street over to Nixon's Coffee from here, you press the button and then the lights start to flash. And that's been pretty effective. We haven't had many problems with that here at the Civic Center because cars are going fairly slower through here anyway, as opposed to Broadway. So that's pretty effective. And so I could see that could be something that could help people out trying to cross Downing Street, especially going to the school over there.
Anyone else have a question? How do you all typically get places? How do you get to school? How do you go to the park? How do you get places? Yeah.
Well, we usually like walk, but also like biking and riding or going in the car.
We usually bike or walk to school or something. We also use public transit. We occasionally drive when it's too far away.
Other people? Lucas, welcome.
I usually drive places and bike, yeah.
Are there any obstacles? Like, are there parts of the city you guys feel like it's hard to bike to? Like, oh, if you wanted to go do this one thing, you would have to ask your parents to drive you.
Yeah, I'm guessing that your biggest barriers as kids are going to be those major streets like Broadway and Hampton Avenue. Those are pretty scary. I'll just tell you what, a few years ago, I used to live down by Oxford Avenue here in Englewood, and I used to ride my bike to and from work. And one evening after a meeting like this, I was with my bicycle here at the crossing of Inca and Hampton, and I was getting ready to cross, and the crosswalk said walk, and I was about ready to start going through the intersection, and somebody who was stopped here at the signal started honking, vigorously honking and it's like, and I stopped, and then somebody comes and just cruised through the red light.
All the time.
Yeah, just
Yep.
Oblivious. And so that person saved my life. And so I understand the scariness of those kinds of streets. And yeah, those are really tough nuts to crack. It's how we can make those safer.
When I first moved to Englewood, I used to bike a lot, my commute to downtown Denver. And I would usually take the Platte River Trail because that was where I felt safest. But getting there from my house, which is off of Delaware and Tufts, was not fun. And particularly getting home, even just going down Oxford where there were bicycle lanes, it often felt perilous. As traffic is passing by, people are turning, and drivers aren't necessarily on the lookout for pedestrians.
I think most of the problem of that is they're on their phones when they drive.
I had a police officer tell me, he's like, the one thing I wish I could do as a police officer is have a button to turn people's phones off. I'm gonna have to click a button. Ahead.
I feel like another reason why traffic goes really fast on Oxford, because if it's on the side of Logan that's the school is not on, people tend to like try to race to Broadway to race the red light to to try to pass Broadway as quick as possible. People go really fast.
It feels like a highway. The wider the street, the more you feel like you can drive faster.
Yeah.
Interesting, all the engineering aspects to trying to calm traffic down. All the subliminal stuff that you don't really think about.
The other thing we've been doing a lot of lately, from a safety standpoint, is encouraging the police department to be out near the schools when you all are going to and from school. So during those times, 8 in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I don't know if you've seen them out there or not, but I've talked to a couple of our officers, one of whom has issued several hundred traffic tickets in the last few months in areas surrounding the schools. And that over time tends to calm things down once drivers get the message that they can't get away with things near the schools. It's a big component of this.
Yeah, and then signage and crosswalk markings help a lot too. Anything that can scream at the drivers, hey, this is a special area, you gotta be careful here. So yeah, apparently I just saw something in a council newsletter that there'll be some improvements to this old Washington school site, which is I believe a preschool over there at Washington and Eastman. Yeah.
Do you guys feel that it makes a difference to have more police presence in the signage around the schools? Do you feel safer like in the immediate area around the school or on the bike paths that you choose to walk or bike to get toward the school immediate area?
Yeah. If there was putting more signage and letting people know, hey, this is an area for pedestrians, then yeah, it feels quite safe around there.
Are there areas that you bike or walk that you feel safer on versus other areas that you use in the city? Or maybe I should ask that differently. Are there areas that are designated walking or biking areas that you don't feel safe using around the city?
How did you all get here tonight?
Driving.
Driving. I drove. It's cold out.
It's cold out.
It's dark.
Dark, cold, all that other stuff.
How do you typically get to school on a day-to-day basis? Driving.
Biking.
Yeah, that's something that's changed a lot since I was a kid. When I was a kid back in the 70s, most kids would walk or ride a bike, and that's totally flipped. The majority now are driven to school, and there's different reasons for that. And part of it is that there's crazy drivers out there and just other crazy people, but we're trying to work on that and trying to encourage more people to feel more comfortable doing that, walking and riding bikes to school.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, my kids like, okay, you'd either have to cross Hamden or go under the bridge on Hamden. I'm not too sure about either of those options for safety, for very different reasons.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, do we want to give John a big round of applause and let him go before we continue on? Let's just check in. It's been another month since we talked. Is there anything that's kind of new newly important to you all that you've noticed as a problem, just going through your life in the city, anything that's going good in the city. Any of you been to any city events, been to any parks lately that you really liked? Had any bad experiences? Just kind of normal life for the last month.
Yeah.
It's a short month. Okay. That makes my life easy. City council members, do you have any questions?
Don't. Still getting used to the cadence of what you guys talk about and how you talk about it, but I thought you asked some really interesting questions tonight.
Nothing for me.
Awesome. Well then, looking at our future meetings, in March, so next month, we're meeting at the end of the month again, and we're gonna be meeting with the sustainability coordinator. Her name is Mel. She is super, super cool, super fun. I'm working on a number of projects with her right now, so she's super exciting. It'll be here at City Hall again. And she's gonna talk about the city's sustainability plans. So talking about Earth Day, Earth Week, Earth Festival, things like that. That's also coming up in April, so that is a big project she's working on. So you all will get to hear a little bit about that. Do you have any questions that you want me to send to her ahead of time or anything you really want to know about sustainability right now? If not, that's okay. She'll be here next month.
You can always email things if you have questions pop up, like anything from, I mean, Mel does things with electric vehicles, solar panels, recycling, like everything.
Composting is
Yeah.
another area of conversation that we've been talking about recently. So.
Perfect. So yeah, look for an email from Sarah about that, and then right beforehand, I'll send you a couple discussion questions. Did you all see the discussion questions for this meeting? Just a couple of brain teasers. Cool. If not, have your parents show them to you. It's just a couple questions to get you thinking before you show up. And then we'll turn it over and do public comment. Parents, do you have anything to add to the board?
About the discussion tonight?
Yes.
What's Englewood's policy on panhandling? Because I know we're talking about safety in intersections, crosswalks, medians. What's the policy on that then? And that's also like a obstruction for traffic and pedestrians. So I don't want them crossing where someone's panhandling.
I'm not qualified to answer that. I think that would probably be the jurisdiction of the Englewood Police, I'm guessing. So I do not know if we have a panhandling policy or not.
But
It's a
it's
little
an
bit,
obstruction, so I think it should be factored into the plans that you're working on and thinking about.
it's a little bit challenging, because there's a balance there between the First Amendment free speech right and the necessity of keeping the public right of way clear. So the city policy in general is that occupying the public right of way or blocking it is not legal. And that should be addressed when it occurs. Last year, we passed a sit-lie ordinance that prohibits that type of activity, sitting or lying in the public right of way. But enforcement is difficult because our officers on a daily basis have to balance the rights of the people that they're contacting against whatever the perceived or actual violation of the law is, and how important that is in the scope of the other things that they have to do every day. So if you call it in, it's more likely to result in a contact of some sort. In particular, if someone is standing in a place like on a median where it appears to be unsafe for them to be there, you can always.
But not safe for you're more concerned about the panhandler safety than the pedestrian safety?
No, both,
Okay.
frankly. But
Okay.
I mean, someone just existing in our community who doesn't have a house is not a violation of the law. So that's where the challenge comes in. And we're constantly looking for better ways to balance that. I can give you some examples when we're not on the record anymore of recent contacts I've had, but yeah, that's generally speaking, the concern is not the panhandling or the being there, it's the obstruction or the blocking of the public right of way.
And the safety for the unpredictability of their temperament around children.
I understand where you're coming from on that, for sure.
So the one intersection that you mentioned by the Washington School on Eastman, is Washington, isn't that? Is there any way in the future, because right now it's a stop sign and then Washington doesn't have one. And then when all those cars are during the pickup and the drop off, if you're at either stop sign, you have to inch until you're almost in the middle of the street where any car would and then there's little kids everywhere. It's very anxiety inducing corner. But I think if there was a 4-way stop there, really make it a lot safer for everybody there. Something to consider. And then also I was saying about sending the kids over to the high school when you have to go either across Hamden and Logan or under that bridge. I am more terrified of under the bridge than over the traffic, but if there was some kind of above ground bridge for pedestrians, so it's visible, so you're not getting jumped in the ditch or hit by a car, but over.
Yeah, that would be great. It might be harder for us to fund, but that might be a longer term project. But maybe we always tend to look for shorter term answers that could help make something better. And so maybe one of the things we could do with the going underneath is to really drastically improve the lighting. That would help a lot because I think the lighting really sucks there.
It's scary. I'm scared. I don't even like to ride my bike under there with them without their dad.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame you because that's an area where we have a lot of panhandling types of peoples there too. So I can't blame it there. But yeah, that's the thing that is. It's a real conflict because it's a lot safer traffic wise, but then there's personal security. And so it's it's hard to figure out which one, and probably what you really need to do is to try to be able to handle both so that at certain times of day people will feel comfortable going underneath there, but you also have to think of how they can avoid that and just go across the street at other times of the day. So yeah, you have to look at it from multiple perspectives, and some of our bicycle routes are like that too. Whereas we felt we need to have a bicycle route on Dartmouth, even though it's so busy, because it's a bicycle route in Denver on either side. But yet we also know that parents and kids aren't going to feel comfortable on Dartmouth. So we've also identified parallel routes like Bates Avenue, and those are geared towards parents and kids. So you have to kind of think about how do I kind of serve both of those audiences, those fast bikers, in spandex on Dartmouth, and then how can I serve kids and parents on a slower speed street next, a couple streets away.
On the subject of the 4-way stop, I can tell you that is one of the more common questions I've gotten in the last 3 years. And it's been a little frustrating for me from a council perspective because Public Works has a criteria that they use to evaluate where 4-way stops go. And they tend to be very stubborn on whether or not they're going to put one there. If you email me, I can sign that intersection up for an evaluation as far as why, because I think what you said made a lot of sense. One of the big factors is not necessarily peak traffic times, but overall how much traffic goes through there. And that's the source of the challenge I've gotten in the past, is there's not sufficient traffic in both directions to justify a four-way stop.
Any other comments, parents or youth,
Well,
or council, or staff?
why can't the bikers go on non-busy streets or sidewalks? Why can't the bikers go on non-busy streets or the sidewalks?
Well, so there's certain types of bicyclists who don't mind the traffic and they want to take the shortest route to where they're going. They feel comfortable with that arrangement, and since in Denver they've got that sign on either side, so we feel we've got to accommodate them, but we also know that kids or families might not feel comfortable with that, so we try to create a parallel route that feels much safer, that's not very busy, that they can choose a good ride on as well. And you can ride on sidewalks in Englewood as well.
One more question. Are we shopping around for the people painting the street? Because $50,000 to put a bicycle on the street seems like a lot for like stencil and paint.
Yeah, so sometimes we contracted that out, but we also have apparently sometimes the city of Littleton, we have some kind of arrangement with the city of Littleton so that they can sometimes do it. But that's really basically how much it costs. I don't think we're gonna find a bargain out there that's gonna do that for a lot less.
Part of that is the traffic control requirement. When they're out there working, they have to establish a traffic control plan to make sure that they don't get injured as they're trying to do the process. So that is a component. It's not just paint and a crew, it's a bunch of other things associated with that type of project.
Any other questions? Well, thank you all so much for coming. We'll see you all in March, and we'll set out an email beforehand with all the information you need. Help yourselves to the snacks. Have a safe travel home, now that we've been talking about it all night.
Yeah.